Okay, now it says I'm live. It was giving me an error a minute ago. Om lokaha samastaha sukhi no bhavantu. May all beings be happy and peaceful. Could I get some comments in the chat just to make sure that it is functioning properly? It's been giving me error messages. Okay. Master Shrizen. Definitely not a master. Not even close. Awesome. You know, it's a sad reality that we have to do these live streams because we don't get the human interaction that is so beneficial for us as human beings. And that's actually the main reason why I am one of the facilitators of these Heaven on Earth retreats, because you can see me in the videos here. It's just a wonderful opportunity to connect in person, and we can learn so much more from each other when we do that. So this retreat is mostly focused on just health and wellness, yoga, spirituality, metaphysics, all of that. But I'm also going to be available for those of you that join me in my trading community that want to talk trading, want to talk charts and crypto, of course. And I might have some classes around that as well. So if you're interested in that, there's a link down in the description. I will have a discount code for that soon for you all. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. And yeah, lots of great food, yoga, all of that. And if you're interested in really learning about cryptocurrency, you can check out Smart Money's Crypto Handbook and my courses. So let's dive into the charts and see what's going on with Bitcoin. Okay, so why the title? Key signs that crypto's on the verge of a collapse. It just feels a little bit toppy, doesn't it? It's been going on. This has been dragging on now for a couple of weeks. And what is the key sign for me? Actually, if we just look, start zoomed out, as always, look on the monthly chart and see what's happening with Bitcoin. And I mentioned this sort of martyr cross here that we have, this doji symbol after this massive up candle in January. We never revisited back down the lows of January, just went straight up. And then in February, we sort of found an equilibrium, couldn't really push up or down. But now in March, we are beneath the monthly open for the first time in a few months here. And this is looking like an evening star formation. Furthermore, if we take a look on the weekly and we see, of course, obviously on the monthly, you can see that there is a range here that we are at the top of. We've just rejected off of that, not once, but 3 times now, 3 months here. We've rejected from the top of this range here, okay? And then we have the Bollinger Bands. If we throw those up on just the weekly chart here, what's really curious is that, as I mentioned, anytime you see Bitcoin on the monthly, when it goes to one end, one extreme end, these are 2 standard deviations. It's either 2 or 2.5 from the mean, which is this orange line here. Anytime it goes to the top, it usually will at some point come back at minimum to the mid and most likely to the bottom of the bands. And we actually saw that happen here, where it went from November to the bottom of the bands all the way to the top, and now it's back inside. So what does that mean for Bitcoin? Well, potentially that means that at minimum, I would expect it to revisit 19,775, somewhere around 20K. But also be prepared for the scenario where we come all the way back down to the bottom, which just so happens to be sub 14K, which is actually makes sense according to the Wyckoff accumulation, the spring sort of theory, where we get a secondary test that goes below the previous lows. Okay, so I'm saying be prepared for that. And I have been glued to the charts mainly because I am positioning from a swing perspective here. There's not many opportunities that we have in a bear market. Usually it's just chop. And it's been very choppy if you zoom in and you look on the 4H or the daily. But if you look on the monthly and weekly perspective, you can see we're at the top. We've been near the top of this Bollinger Bands here for some time now, for several weeks. And I've been shorting this all the way down because when it gets to the extreme, we're reverting back to the mean. That's really all trading is finding those extremes. At least for someone like myself, my strategy is to try and see those overextended moves, to spot those patterns, and to trade them the other way when the time comes for the reversal. And we've caught some of those, especially with the altcoins. We've caught some of those really well. Optimism caught the top of that one. DYDX, that one was a monster for a while, and now it's just really far down, exploring. It's been just continuing to go down. Of course, I got out of those trades a little bit too early. But when you're setting up from a swing perspective, not worried so much about all the chop, having looser stops, letting it do its thing, and trusting and understanding that the overall dynamic here, we are headed down, folks. And the reason for that is because there's a lot of reasons for it. Okay, there's a lot of reasons, and I've given you some of them in the last stream on Monday. But we are beneath the monthly open. We are beneath the weekly open on all of these charts. If you look on the DXY, look at that. Does that look bearish or bullish to you? Okay, looks like it wants to head higher, doesn't it? I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science. I can tell my son, my 12-year-old son, I ask him, he says, yeah, it looks like it wants to go back up again, Dad. It's not that hard to figure it out, but we have our own mental bias that we sort of project onto the charts. And especially those of us that are bag holders that really don't want to sell, because let's face it, it's more work, it's more management and all of that. Or maybe those of us that got in much higher on a certain asset and just waiting for it to come back to that. There's a lot of that delusion out there on Twitter. And part of my job is to sort of to slay those endless hopium fiends that can only ever shill and don't ever know how to give a reality check. And so here's the reality check. Dollar's going higher. Gold is actually looking like it wants to come down here, and that's usually a sign it's going to come down lower. That's silver. But look at gold. Gold, this is a triple top here, okay? And we're back at the middle of this range, most likely headed back down at minimum to the bottom of this range here, okay? So gold is actually also a signal. If you take a look for the last 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks now, gold has been headed south. Gold was on the rise while the dollar was selling off, okay? And so there is a correlation, and it's very subtle. Of course, it becomes not so subtle as time progresses. And we see this with the S&P 500 as well. Very strong, a lot of money pouring in. You see a lot of irrational impulse buying on the side of retail. We've seen that with Tesla. We saw Tesla really pump. It just kept going, right? It went all the way up to, what was it, like 200? And you can see my short position here on Tesla. Came all the way up, deviated back inside. Here was the extreme. So here's an example of something just really overbought. I love Tesla. I do not enjoy shorting this, and it was not a huge position, but I think that this was retail. This was I think it was 1.5. I don't know how much money was poured into stocks in January, but it was a lot of money, and it was not very reasonable buying. Okay, and it's coming at a time when we have such a negative macroeconomic climate, and people in denial of the fact that we're going to see a hard landing, and we haven't seen that yet. Okay, so the worst has not happened yet. And this is the problem, is most people are in denial of that. And so if you're with the reality of the situation, you understand, like even Ethereum, just look at Ethereum where it is, same situation from a monthly perspective. Here's your big up candle, here's your doji, here's the start of the month is headed south. That's going to set the tone in all likelihood for the rest of the month, okay? And so if we look at the Bollinger Bands for Ethereum, we can see that this is from the monthly. It's good to look at these, look at stochastics, look at Bollinger Bands. Occasionally, I don't make my trade decisions based off of these, but I'm just looking for the extremes. That's what I use the Bollinger Bands for. But notice here, it from about from June, or actually we could say from November again, came near the bottom, came all the way to the top. Now look, it's holding as resistance. It held as resistance. Now it's headed back down toward the mid, which is around 1430, which also happens to coincide with the January mid. So that would be a minimum target for me personally for Ethereum. Okay. And as I've mentioned, I'm focusing more on Ethereum because I think Ethereum has been propped up for much longer than it should have been for various reasons, which I don't speculate so much about that because I know there's just so many ideas out there, but it's obviously been propped up higher because it never revisited those lows down in the 900s. Okay. And you can see what is the bottom of this Bollinger Band. That's around 1,000. Would that be all that unreasonable for it to come back down to this level? No, I don't think so. And as a matter of fact, I think it's going to probably go somewhere between 7 and 900 at some point. So, of course, this is speculation. I don't know for sure. There's no way to know for sure. But at best case scenario, this is in fact an accumulation range, okay, for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. That would be best case scenario. And if that is the case, then you need to ignore everyone on crypto Twitter that's talking about Bitcoin to 30, 40K. That's a bunch of bullshit, okay? Don't pay any attention to those people because we've had weeks of rejection at the top of the range, at the tippity top of the range. And now we're headed back down. And the macro climate is not good. And so thinking that it's just going to rocket back up to 25K and then shoot beyond that, you're completely deluded, okay? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong. The markets can be irrational for however long they choose to be. But this is just, I'm just delivering my reasoning here as a trader. And I'm actually putting my money where my mouth is. So like many analysts out there, they'll just talk. Maybe they're bag holders. Just look at them. Look at what are they doing with their money? Are they actually traders or are they just people who have been hodling Bitcoin for the last 10 years? Because there's a difference there. For me, my livelihood depends on this. So I'm trading according to what I'm delivering to all of you. Okay. So Ethereum likely headed back down lower, assuming the best case scenario is that we are in a accumulation range. Okay. And then this would be the bottom of the range. But if we get a spring case scenario with Bitcoin where it heads down to 14K, the bottom of that Bollinger Band, then in all probability, Ethereum is going to head lower than 1,000. Okay. It's probably going to head somewhere down again between 7 and 900. And then it gets back inside and then we have something to work with. And then we could say, okay, now the bottom could possibly be in. Okay. Or maybe it doesn't get that far. Maybe it's just comes back down here, holds here. Okay. And that's fine too. That's still an accumulation. Okay. But also be prepared because we have the phases and we have the cycles and we could say, this is how it's been for so many years and that's fine. But then there's also the black swans, and the black swans, you can't say how far the price is going to go. So we could be just humming along fine and dandy, but remember COVID, we actually broke out of that bear market in 2019. But then we had 2020 and it was sort of a blip and it became one big range. It probably would have been a lot higher if it hadn't been for COVID. So we could be in accumulation and then all of a sudden it's World War III, boom, okay? Who knows how low it could go? I don't know. Bitcoin could go sub 10K. And we know that the powers that be do not want cryptocurrency around, okay? And they're going to do everything that they can to crush it. And that includes maybe selling off what they've seized from the Silk Road hack, which actually they've just moved to Coinbase. They've moved hundreds of millions of dollars of that to Coinbase just the other day. So, and it's all very well timed and planned, even though it doesn't appear that way to us. Okay. There is a plan with all of this. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So now when I'm looking as a trader, I am looking at this and thinking, okay, you don't really know which direction this is going to go in, do you? But what do you have to give credit to? We have to give credit to the existing momentum. The existing momentum has been to the downside. Okay, even though you have all these dojis, I mean, it's just like banging your head against a wall. It's the most ridiculous price action ever. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, about to have almost 5 days When is the levy going to break? It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It could happen at any moment. Be prepared for that 5-minute candle that literally wipes all this out, because that's how it's going to be, because that's what happened here. Okay. This was in about 15 minutes, we headed down. Okay. If we look at this on a 15-minute chart, because that is by design. Okay. If it was a nice steady move down, maybe it does slowly bleed out, but in all likelihood, from what we've seen the last few months, they're doing it very quickly to catch everyone off guard. Okay. And sometimes be wary, because maybe there's another stop run. Maybe there's 5 more stop runs and it keeps coming up here and then crushing it back down again. These are great entries for shorts. Okay. At the first sign of weakness, which you can see on a 15-minute chart. Here it was here. I entered here. Okay. Here you can see up here, broke down here, this 15-minute candle here, back inside the range. So be prepared for that. This was actually a 5-minute candle. Okay. This move, actually, let's see how big that candle was. It was 2-5, it was 10 minutes. Okay. So in 10 minutes, we went from 1642 to about 1600. Okay. And that completely obliterated this entire range that you have here. Much bigger candles than anything we'd seen before that. Sort of seemed like it came out of the blue. Could happen at any moment. Be prepared for that. Of course, it could go the other way, but they could do that. But I'm just telling you what the probabilities are for Bitcoin and Ethereum. The fact that they haven't bounced yet, the fact that it hasn't had any real upward momentum to counter this big move down, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. And that's also why you see a lot of the altcoins, they've just been steadily bleeding out. Look at Injective, look at Lido, look at Litecoin, look at Optimism, all of them. They're slowly bleeding out and they're breaking down. So if you look now, we have the change in the market structure. Okay. Look at, let's actually look at Litecoin, because Litecoin is the canary in the coal mine. Litecoin has made, we have the higher high here, but lower high, lower low. Hasn't really made a lower high yet. May come back up to retest this one more time at 90. Maybe just keeps falling through the floor at this point. You could see, does this look like the uptrend wants to continue here? I mean, no matter how you draw this, even if you draw a diagonal here, this uptrend has been broken here. And so Litecoin was leading the way with all the alts. That means that many of the other alts with lower market caps are going to sell off much, much more. You know, I was telling my friends, this is where I'd be selling. This is where I was telling them, all in this range. Look, this is where you sell. This is a distribution range. And you could find this if you zoom in on any of these charts. This is not rocket science, but most people just aren't paying attention, or they're just focused on one chart. I'm looking at dozens of charts. I mean, there's maybe a half dozen that I'm really focused on more, because they set the tone. But Litecoin is basically giving me an indication of what the rest of the alts are going to do. Okay. And total market cap as well. I've been pointing this out on Twitter. Notice here, the break in the trend. Okay. After visiting the top, this is total market cap of cryptocurrency. No coincidence. It came up, filled this void in here, rejected. Okay. And now we have a break in trend. We have a break in market structure. It's clear as day. And it hasn't come back up to revisit the monthly open. So this is a sign of big weakness. This is where I start getting into my swing positions and riding it out. And this could actually happen while we're on stream here. This is a critical level for Ethereum. It's doing it right now, actually. So if I'm trading during this, yep, okay, let's see what happens. Wait for those 5-minute candles, because that 5-minute candle with the momentum, you know, it's tricky trading this if you've never really done this before, but you'll know when this starts to really break down. I mean, there's been a lot of fake outs here, but notice what's happening. It's hitting the floor. It keeps hitting the floor over and over and over again. It's going to break. The floor is going to break. Otherwise, I mean, they're either going to bring it up really soon here, or it's just going to break right through here. And a lot of times what we're seeing is big moves are happening about 1 to 2 hours after the stocks close. Actually, we've seen some moves usually around the daily open for cryptocurrency. But this could happen at any time. Okay, so I'm paying attention, and I have this alert here. It might go off while I'm on stream because it's just a recurring alert. But I'm looking for weakness down beneath this 1545 level. Not a rejection wick like this. I'm actually currently have an ETH short that I've been riding, and I'm looking to add to it on the way down. But if I'm wrong, when am I wrong on this? Okay, I'm wrong if it does this and holds above here, okay, and actually holds above and starts to move up again, in which case we're looking at potentially revisiting the monthly open at around 1600. Okay, it's a possibility that I'm prepared for, and I'm prepared to exit positions if that's the case. But yeah, it's been stubborn, it's been slow, it's been choppy. But zoom out, look at the bigger picture. Okay, with Injective, Injective has been another one that I've been really focused on, but they're all the same, right? Because they're headed back down toward the previous range. Injective, I knew it was going to move fast here because just because of the nature of it, because of the market cap, and because of the previous price action. This is you could call this a double top, right? And it cleared this neckline here. Maybe it comes back to revisit that, to retest that. And that could be a potential entry if it retests and fails there, right? But I've been riding Injective all the way down from up here around 385 or so. And even before it gave that indication, Lido is definitely headed down. Lido, I'm targeting around 175, which is sort of the mid. It's also a little support area here, but could head all the way back down to 90 cents. Could go all the way back down to 50 cents. You just don't know. I mean, Matic is another one that this one was look at how strong Matic was and look at what it's done. It just continues to sell off. It's just been relentless. And of course, it was relentless buying on the way up. It's looking like it wants to completely round trip here. A minimum target's $1.02. It's already almost back down to the mid of this range here after deviating above. And this is what we look for. We look for these extreme scenarios. It came up above the supply zone, wicked above it, couldn't hold on the lower time frames. If you caught this move, good on you. I think I was trading this at some point up here, but then got back inside and then came back inside this range, rejected here on the retest. There's an entry. Okay, so you have plenty of opportunities to enter on the way down. Just because maybe you missed it here or here doesn't mean that it's over, okay? It's just a matter of which alts look like they are showing the most weakness, or which ones were the strongest and the most irrational on the way up. Matic was one of them, okay? And now look at what it's doing, okay? It's down like 7% a day, usually, for the last week or so or more, okay? So maybe it comes back up to this weekly level. Maybe it comes all the way back to the monthly open. Okay, 119, and that would be sort of you could say that would be an obvious level for it to maybe take out some shorts. But like I said, like it's not showing, like for as long as Bitcoin and Ethereum don't show any signs of strength, the alts are done for. I mean, if that's the case, and we just continue, we make another big leg down, even down 1500 for Ethereum, even down 21K for Bitcoin, it's game over for the alts. They're going to really tank here. I mean, if you look at just how far Matic has come down, while Ethereum, meanwhile, really hasn't yet. So what is that a sign of? I mean, again, remember that VCs are in control of this game, okay? And so if they are selling their Matic, then we know something's up. Then we know that Ethereum is most likely going to be next. So they're sort of foreshadowing that. So let's take a look and see. Are you guys enjoying the stream so far? Are you getting some value from it? What's a headbanger? What do you guys want me to talk about? I mean, it seems like I've turned into like, I feel like a permabull sometimes, but it's just kind of like, well, look, there was so much irrational behavior leading up to this. There has to be a deleveraging of sorts. And, I'll probably flip bullish again, notwithstanding some dramatic event back when it comes back down again. But um, targets for Ethereum on the way down, where you have this 1500 level, and then we have the 1430, which is that mid. But I would probably not even, I would just let it drop, because I feel like this is a whole we have a big sort of liquidity void here. So could head all the way back down to 1280. That would, for me, would make sense at minimum. And then maybe somewhere down here, depending on what Bitcoin is doing. But all eyes on Bitcoin right now, and Bitcoin's struggling to hold at 22K. So what does that tell you? And even those that are just looking at the chart from this perspective, well, at this point, can you still say we're in an uptrend? Higher high, lower high. I mean, we haven't technically on the daily put in a lower low yet, but by the time that happens, it could be too late, right? It's been holding up pretty well, considering. I mean, stocks have been down the last couple of days. It's been holding up, it hasn't really moved at all. But for Bitcoin, targets for Bitcoin would be down in the, I mean, I think ultimately it will come down to, I mean, it could come down to 16K. 18.6 would make sense as a level for Bitcoin. Let's pull up the levels and see what we're working with. This level here, this 2500 is the mid of, if you take the lows down 15,500 and then the highs up here, this would be the mid of that. Okay, so that, again, that coincides with the mid of the Bollinger Bands. So that would be sort of a minimum target for me. And then we're looking at this 18,600, which was above the deviation, where the real breakout happens to kick off this rally. So that would be a complete round trip of that. And then it could go a lot lower. Like I said, 14K. But always from a swing perspective, like if I'm setting up, I mean, how many times have you gotten into a long or a short position and you got out of it only for it to continue? Like, imagine getting in up here, right? 23, 24K, and then all of a sudden you take profits. It's great. You have a great trade. You take profits at 20K, and then it just keeps dropping. And then it actually ends up eventually going to 14K. This is why some people trade on two accounts. They have the swing and the scalp accounts, because you can keep that running, not touch it, and just adjust your stops, and then maybe take profits along the way. But then you have at least some, like 25%, 33%, whatever, however much, that you just let it ride. And that way, there's still skin in the game, and you're not feeling the FOMO when the trade continues in your favor. Maybe it doesn't, maybe you get stopped out, but then there's always that one or two times where it really pays off. And I think that will make up for it. So this is part of strategy that I'm sharing here. Yeah, things look dicey. I mean, things are always going to be dicey until we really get some stability in cryptocurrency, which could take years, honestly, to be honest, at this rate, because we need more liquidity in the markets, and that's why it's easier for them to play around with it. But This is part of it being an accumulation range too. This is part of the price action that you should expect. And it is harder to trade. It's much easier to trade in a bull market because you just mostly are just setting up your positions and letting them ride. You're not having to micromanage it. And that's why with the alts, like I have shorts right now on Injective and Litecoin and Lido and Optimism. I've been in and out of these, but actually would have just probably been a not too much better off, but better off if I just held them all the way. And I'm actually planning from here, if we get a big drop in ETH, that's what I'm really waiting for ETH to really break down here beneath 1500, because at that point, there's no turning back for the alts. They'll bounce along the way. They'll have their little stop runs, but trading altcoins, especially as they get lower in, or sorry, higher in market cap, sorry, lower in market cap, higher in ranking, it's going to be increasingly risky, and you have to account for the fact that they will move 2 to 3 times the amount that Bitcoin, Ethereum will, and that means that stops need to be adjusted accordingly. So, you know, like Injective this morning, a trader in my group was talking about this, and Injective had a little stop run. For me, it didn't touch me because I was, well, first of all, I had been in the trade, but this happened on a 15-minute candle. See this here? This was a 7% move in a 15-minute candle, okay? 7% in 15 minutes. I mean, that can happen with Bitcoin, Ethereum too, but also you can get you get a 10 or 20% move on a 15-minute candle. Excuse me. You can get a 10, 20% move or more on a 15-minute candle in some exotic altcoin. And Injective is not really an exotic altcoin, but compared to Bitcoin, Ethereum, Matic, Litecoin, it is. So you always have to be prepared for that. That's why I have sometimes a 10, sometimes a 20% stop. Like Lido, then this one has been, you know, this one actually, Lido is ranked like 30 by market cap, but Lido just really moves when it wants to move. But Lido is showing a lot of weakness right now, even though it's not really readily apparent in all this chop, because you see this here. This was a triple top, and this was obviously, we have a range here, and we're back inside below the monthly, below the weekly, came back up, didn't quite retest it, but tried. There's the breakdown. Now it's beneath the diagonal. So we have several levels of confluence at this point. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3 levels of confluence for Lido. So I'm thinking, you know, at some point headed back down to 170, 1.75 at minimum. Okay, that's a minimum target for Lido. But now if I were entering this trade, which I'm already in the trade, but if I were entering it here, then where would my stop be? Probably somewhere above all this noise, okay? Maybe a 12, maybe a 14, 15% stop. And so if you're using leverage, then you've got to plan that accordingly, okay? So you can't use 20x leverage on this. You can't even use 10x leverage on this. You know, you could use maybe 5x, you know, or you could just not use any leverage and size it that way. And that's why I have my trading size spreadsheet on my website, which is really helpful. For $50. You can figure all that stuff out. But that's my strategy, as opposed to, you know, what happens is people get greedy and they think, well, look at how fast it's moved. It could really go down. I'm just going to put my stop here. And then in a 15-minute candle, boom, you're stopped out and you lose that money. You know, and it's just stressful. And especially if Ethereum, every time Ethereum does a little spike up $10, one of these alts spikes up with it, you know, and even more. So, you know, that's why I'm always saying it's not worth it if you're just starting out trading. Just focus on Ethereum and Bitcoin, because that's all you really need. Of course, there's going to be more opportunities the more charts you look at, but it also can be more of a distraction and can keep you can actually end up getting completely wrecked and blowing up your account. And I would say that most crypto traders actually, I would say there's an even lower percentage of crypto traders that end up successful because of the stage in the game that we're at right now, because many of them did not start out in the stock market or Forex. Some did, but most did not. And they don't really understand that the price can really move against you really quickly. And they don't understand proper risk management. They don't bother to learn it. A lot of them are younger. And of course, I'm younger by most standards. If you like compare me to like a hedge fund manager or somebody that's been in the stock market for a while, but I've really studied this, and I actually started in the stock market before I got into cryptocurrency. As with many of the more popular traders that are out there, those that are successful, they usually started in Forex or the stock market or both. And that really gives a foundation, but it's not absolutely necessary to do that. It's just that it gives you some experience. And so that's why I say, if you don't have the experience yet, then forget the alts, because they don't matter. There's only a handful of occasions where, a lot of the times I'm trading alts, I'm like, I really, even for me, I'm like, it's just not even worth me trading it. There's only a few opportunities where I say, okay, now is the time. And that's why I was pointing out these alts when they were hitting the tops here. And, this is obvious short trigger for me. I didn't get involved in Lido until I saw it do this. I didn't want to touch it. I didn't want to long it. I didn't want to short it. But then I saw it do this. Third time testing this. This is where I started watching it, started shorting it. Okay. And until then, I've just, okay, I set my alerts. I set an alert, it crossed the threshold, and okay, now I'm paying attention to it. And the whole rest of this run, I didn't even care. It was pumping like mad. I didn't care. I didn't catch it down here. It wasn't on my radar. No big deal. There's plenty of waves in the ocean, plenty of opportunities. And that's my strategy. And it's really helped me and saved me a lot of mental bandwidth as a trader. So, I mean, if you can narrow down one strategy as a trader with Bitcoin, Ethereum, just catching breakouts, for instance, really finding those momentum moves, those momentous moves, and just going all in at that point. Of course, not everything you have. For me, all in on a Ethereum trade is usually, of course, I'll have tighter stops, like 0.5%, sometimes 0.75%. That's when I have really high conviction, and then I'll do maybe 1% is at risk. And I can turn that into a 10 or 15 hour trade. Okay. If you think about it, if you really know how to ride those waves, and that wave might only come once a week. It might only come once every 2 weeks. Okay. But if you catch that one wave and you get a 10 or 15 hour trade and you do that, you just rinse and repeat. That's all you need. And everything else becomes a distraction. But so it's getting to that point. And to get to that point, you just study the charts. Study the charts and study the strategies. Find the patterns. And I'm giving you the patterns with Ethereum. I'm telling you, look for the momentum, because the rest of this is just confusion. Okay. But there are, on the 15-minute chart, you can spot the momentum. On the 5-minute chart, you can spot the momentum. You can see when it really broke out. And we'll be able to see it here as well. This is a period of contraction. It's going to lead to expansion. And that means that there's going to likely be another move like this, either to the upside or the downside. We don't know yet, but I'm leaning towards the downside. Stocks were up slightly today. They closed. SPY was relatively flat, slightly green. Okay. Meta's still being a little devil, but a lot of the others are down. Tesla's down. So, I mean, this was after Powell's remarks. Of course, we have the FOMC coming up. I think that's next week. We have non-farm payrolls. So there's more data. They've been very clear that they're going to be very hawkish. So I don't see any positive news coming in. CPI was really there was the last trigger that really brought these back up above these levels the last time. Just you know, playing the probabilities here. Silvergate not being able to shift money. Whale's got all kinds of they got all kinds of backup plans. They weren't all in on Silvergate. They can move things around if they choose to. They've, you know, when you get to that level, you've got to have 15 different contingency plans, and you got to they have so much inside knowledge that they were able to pull out. A lot of them you saw them pulling out. Not the whales, but we saw a lot of we saw Coinbase and many of the others pulling out. They know ahead of time, so that's their unfair advantage, and so they can absolutely they don't have the limitations that we do. We hear about something maybe like 2 or 3 hours after it actually happens, and then somebody reports it and it goes viral on Twitter. That's not, they ensure that they have the inside knowledge. Because think about it, if you had billions of dollars that you were working with, you wouldn't take any chances. You would make absolutely certain that you have the best people in your network, that you are associating with those that can give you the advanced knowledge about the market movements. Okay. And so I'm telling you, that's why I think that Litecoin, Matic, and a lot of the alts are giving us a signal right now, because they're not really bouncing. They're just continuing to sell off while Ethereum and Bitcoin remain flat. And so what that means to me is that we're going to see a massive sell-off in Bitcoin and Ethereum in the coming weeks. It might not happen today. It might happen today. It might not happen tomorrow. We don't know when it's going to happen, but it's really not looking good at this point. Like, this is where I would like to just get on with it and have the nice, you know, the nice enema, because it's like, it's really constipated at this point. I mean, this is really constipated, and it's just sitting there. It's just sitting right at that critical level, like just kind of peering out over the precipice. I think it's only a matter of time. And so, you're not going to catch this unless you set an alert. That's like your best friend in TradingView. I mean, because I could be at the gym, I could be, you know, out salsa dancing, whatever. If that alert goes off, I'm on it. And like, I don't even care what's going on. I'm on it. I'm focusing on it. And every time it hits it, you know, this morning the alert went off for me. It was 4 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in the morning. I'm up, and it did this, of course. But I was up anyways, because that's the nature of the game. And this is the move that I'm looking for. This is the big move that I'm looking for to really continue to add to my swing positions. And so if that's a difference between a 10 or 15 or 20 hour trade, it's a little bit of sleep, you know, okay, I'll take it. And that's my strategy as a trader. So yeah, it's totally constipated. I mean, look at it. Look at this. What the hell is this? What the hell is it doing? It's clogged up. After this, and yeah, that's healthy, right? This is, I look forward to the times when it becomes more like the stock market. I look forward to like crypto having a $40 trillion market cap, because that'll be a lot different. You know, it won't be as exciting, but it will be a lot different. It'll be a lot more predictable. Stocks are actually easier to trade for me than crypto. So you know, all the charts look the same to me. It's not, I mean, optimism is, I just kind of took a little short here because I was feeling like just throwing some money at it and watching it drop. But I mean, optimism was one of those that was just it was too strong for too long. Too strong for too long. And now we have the sell off, and we have the deleveraging that's happening slowly but surely. So optimism targeting down 135. But the reason that I kind of lost interest. I actually caught this 318. I was short at 3.8. It was like 318. Yeah, I was short here, and I got out somewhere down here. I didn't really care so much because I knew it was going to continue to chop around, and I saw other opportunities And so, you know, you don't need to be in 10 different altcoin trades at the same time. That's also really confusing. But if you're just milking like 2 or 3, then that's fine. For me, it's Injective and Lido, and I have some in Litecoin, but not as much. But you know, that's just my strategy. But so optimism looking like, again, it wants to head back down 135, and I'm not sure what other alts I was hearing about. Stacks, was it? Oh, yeah, that. Well, what do you think? I mean, this looks like a meme coin. I remember Stacks, but it looks like a Dogecoin or a Shiba Inu, and that this was a dead giveaway here. I mean, this look at this candle, this daily candle. If we were in a bull market, then that's 62% in a day. And then we have, but here we have the break of the neckline here, the retest. Okay, so I mean this is a pretty obvious. We have the now we have the lower high. Okay, here's your lower low. Okay, so came back, retested, sumo, shot up, miffed off, and now it's breaking down. That's a pretty obvious move there. And so we're beneath the weekly. Maybe it comes back up and retests the weekly. But like, where do you think where is the real magnet? There's these crypto Twitter fanatics talking about magnets for the price being way up high. The magnet for this is down here at 35 cents. Yep, that'd be a complete round trip. Okay, 35 cents minimum. I'm calling it now. Okay, but I don't really care about this. I'm already sized up in other charts, and I don't, there could be some drama along the way. They get dramatic, maybe it does something like this. You never know. I don't think it will, but a lot of people are thinking we're gonna bounce here. I'm telling you, scenario number 3, we're not bouncing. That's the scenario. That's the high probability right now. People waiting for the bounce to maybe get in. Even if it does bounce, even if it bounced all the way up to 16, somewhere in here, okay, then I'm looking to add to my short, okay? Because I don't see it. I don't see it happening right now. It's not giving us anything. We're just getting, and here you can see, usually on the 4H, it's just not big enough of a candle. But if it was a pinup where this is part of the pinup strategy in my courses, if we have a strong rejection wick and then we have the body of the candle down, but it's not a confirmation of a continuation of the downtrend, but this is not really a good sign. There's still, of course, an hour and a half left in this candle. But needs to break down beneath 1545. And there's times where it really just bleeds out, and that could happen. But I think that, again, I think there's a higher likelihood that it just does do a really quick flush, and then the shorts just jump on there. Maker. Yeah, I mean, the stock market is like grandpa compared to crypto. Crypto's like a baby, we're like 2009, like 12, almost 13 now. Is it 13 years old? And it took a while for it to catch on. Maker also looks like it's in a distribution range. Yeah. I mean, it came up. Maker could be strong in the next bull run, but right now, actually last week, it kind of interesting because last week it had, we're looking at them. That's the market cap. Shoot. I don't know why they do that. It's so confusing sometimes. It doesn't actually look all that different. But Maker was really strong. They all have their own rhythms. They all have their own patterns. I wouldn't fade this yet. but I also wouldn't long it just because of the context of the market. This is not really it is actually above the monthly open. Uh, it's kind of interesting that it has pumped over the last week. It's sort of been inversely correlated to Ethereum. But that also could be because it didn't really have a big move up previously. I mean, it did. It's been strong. It's still in an uptrend, so I wouldn't fade this here. I don't see any signs of real weakness yet. It could continue up higher, but we're looking at uh yeah, we're looking at, I mean, it's coming up against resistance here. So, and then you see these wicks here. So I mean, it's not really tradable to me. I wouldn't trade this. But Maker, if I had bags of it, I would sell it here. If I was looking to do swing positions, I mean, like a swing trade, be riskier. It'd be a little riskier because you don't know. We don't have any signs of weakness, but could obviously set your stop above these wicks here. Set a wider stop, targeting down the mid here, somewhere down here. Yeah, it's not really worth it from a risk reward perspective. That's why it's not on my radar, probably. Well, once again, I was hoping that we'd get some action here. It's like, I don't know, sometimes it just comes all at once. Sometimes it's kind of how it works with women too, right? It's like sometimes you get it all at once and then you might go days, weeks, months without it, and then it's just right there in front of you. But that's how you got to be as a trader. You got to be patient because sometimes you don't get that payday until the end of the month, or maybe it's you wait a month and a half and then all of a sudden you get a big payday. It's rarely, unless you're a scalper and you're just constantly trading, which I'm not, you usually get paid all at once, and you try and hold on to as much of that as possible in the coming weeks. Phantom has been really weak too. Phantom, it also same sort of pattern. I don't even have it on my main list right now because I just decided that I was shorting it down, but again, other opportunities. But look at where Phantom is. Okay, again, it's back inside this range here. And very large and dramatic double top here. This was a lower high, and now it's actually been pretty clean as far as like the market structure on the way down. Like we have these very clear sort of highs, little bumps along the way. That's like actually a healthy downtrend. And also came back up. It actually did retest this monthly level, and now it's headed even lower. But I wouldn't chase this down here. Not saying that it's not going to eventually come down, because I think that it will come down probably at least to the mid, which is probably around 33 cents. Okay. And then eventually it could come all the way back down to 20 cents. But I'm not going to chase it down from where it is here, partially because I already have open positions. But if you actually, this is a good instance where you can use the pivots, which they're just like averages that usually in a trending market, it will obey the pivots, whereas resistance on the way down. And it has done that. Let's look on the daily and see. Yeah, it's confusing. I don't want to use the pivots. It's just a very clean market structure on the way down, and it doesn't look like there's any relief in sight. It may come back up and retest this weekly level, 40 cents, and then I would be looking to do some business here if I was wanting to trade this. But again, I just don't have the mental bandwidth. So, I mean, if it came back up to this 40 cents level and rejected, then there's your short trigger, right? Because that's obviously a clear support level here for quite a while. But it has actually done that on multiple occasions, right? So we saw that happen here at this level, okay? Um, we saw that sort of happen here, and didn't even, each time it didn't quite make it all the way back up before selling off. And so those are signs of weakness. So I hope that answers your question. Clap show. Yeah, the ladies. The ladies can take it away. I was at the gym today, and sometimes there's those women at the gym and they're like so masculine that it's annoying. They're like, they're pretty, but I just wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole, because I need to be dominant in a relationship or a connection, whatever. And I don't want a masculine chick that's like thinks she's the shit. Like I'm not into that. Like that's just not my thing. That's why I think I'm looking forward to going to Costa Rica, because like I think I need some Latino women in my life. I'm kind of done with the entitled Maui. Uh, yeah, I don't want to say it. I'm done with it. I'm kind of over it. But yeah, it's like I would actually rather, I'll go weeks and months. I don't care. I don't need that. I don't need that in my life, because I'm a trader. And so here, as a trader, another example how you need to be very careful who you associate with and the things that you do, the activities that you do. If you stay up late at night and you drink, and you drink and you have all these bad habits, then you're most likely going to miss all the big moves. If you're not alert and aware and you don't have mental clarity and you're dealing with masculine chicks, I don't need that. I need a nice, friendly, passive woman. She doesn't have to be like completely submissive all the time, but can't hurt. It's like I need a woman in my life who's gonna be not be in the way, right? She's not gonna be a lot of drama. She's not gonna take me away from my focus. Anything that distracts you from your focus, I think about it in terms of money right now. I tell my kids, I'm like, look, is this really that important right now? I've got trades, I've got tens of thousands on the line. Like, is this really that important? I show them, like, take a look at this right here. Now you tell me that your problems are more important than this. If it's something like, help me, fix this toy that I'm capable of fixing myself. Whereas, our time and energy is so incredibly valuable as kings. Like if you really step up to being a king, which we all are kings, but we are actually living that way. The people that we spend time with, our children, all of it is so important. I wouldn't have been able to catch these moves if I was dealing with, running around chasing girls. It's like, they don't have to. There's no point in it. It's a waste of time. It's like throwing money in the trash. That's what it is. And there's been times, trust me, I've had the contrast, and I don't know if the power is going to go out because I'm in a major storm right now, and the power's been out across the island, but we'll see. I'm going to go as long as I can here. I've had times where there's been women that right away, because you start losing money, because you start making the wrong decisions at the complete wrong time. And that was actually when I had when I lost so much money with Luna, and I had entered a trade in Luna and didn't put a stop. And I did it right before everything collapsed. It was like hours before. And that was when I knew this chick was not good for me, because she was at my house when I did it. And that was I don't blame her for it. I blame myself for associating with her. Like this is real. Like when you lose a lot of money making a decision because you got the wrong people in your life, like you'll learn that lesson. You won't do that again. That's, so that's my rant for the day. I don't usually talk about women, but man, yeah, I don't care how pretty you are. I don't care like what you got going on. I don't care who your friends are. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. And that's when they start respecting you. And that's when they start treating you right. And that's when, the masculine ones just get vortexed out of your life. So Phantom, gonna continue to sell off. All of these are going to continue to sell off. There's going to be some bumps along the way, but this is going to be brutal, folks. And people think it's, you know, I feel bad for everyone who's thinking that they're going to buy the dip here. You know, people talk about, I just bought more Bitcoin today. I bought more Ethereum. They advertise it. I'm like, well, you're crazy, but go for it. Have fun. I'm glad you know, feel good about that. I hope that it works out for you at some point. Yeah, when Bitcoin's pumping, 1,000% focus. When Bitcoin's dumping, 1,000% focus. It's the same thing. Invert the charts. Look, let's invert crypto. Okay, let's invert Bitcoin. It's the same thing. If you can't wrap your head around shorting, then just see it as a long, but hit the short button instead of the long, okay? What is this looking like it's ready to do here? Well, it's hard to say. It's hard to say, but when you're looking at a chart, if you can't read it from one way, then invert it. Okay? It's not all that different, right? Just good way to see it. You can make just as much, if not more, in this bear market as you made in the bull market. Okay, and hopefully some of you made money in the bull market. If you didn't, then it was a learning lesson. And your first cycle, it's going to be that way. It's the way it goes. It's the tuition that we pay. And hopefully we have more cycles. And we have, you know, 10 years from now, we'll look back on this and laugh and think how silly it was. And we'll actually miss these times when it was completely crazy. But markets are going to be crazy because people are crazy, because the world has gone completely mad. And we know that we're at the height of manipulation, and there's a lot of people that need to be removed from, you know, from these positions of power. And until that happens, it's going to continue. And so people have to reach the breaking point. And, you know, they're not going to succeed at crushing Bitcoin. I can't speak for any of the other alts. I don't know how they're going to fare, but Bitcoin, they will not succeed. As long as there's still electricity, as long as we're still alive, Bitcoin's going to continue because the principle of it. Because we're looking at digital currencies, that's central bank digital currencies. Do you know there's an expiration date on some of these, like the digital yuan? They can actually put an expiration date on it. Like, what the hell is that? Imagine that. Like, here's the money. We're going to track every move you make. And we're going to know exactly what you're buying and all of that. And we can freeze it at any time. We can also, we can take it away after, you know, if you don't spend it. I mean, come on. Like, oh, and we're not going to move into Bitcoin. Like, this, yeah, it's inevitable at some point. It's inevitable. This is like, you know, it's like end games, right? So that's all I've got for you guys today. I hope that you found it helpful. I hope that you enjoyed my rants. I was feeling a little bit like ranting today. And TA, it's like, you know, can be kind of boring. I try and keep it lively. There's money on the line, folks. And most people out in the world, they don't understand us traders. They're never going to understand us. You know, how you can make sense of a chart like this. It's possible. It is possible. And this is where, you know, you understand these nuances and you really put the time and energy into it, and you can be a multimillionaire. You could be a billionaire even. You can do it. It's possible. But it just, you've got to be able to see the patterns. And the patterns right now are not looking good, my friends. It's not looking good. But it's always good for a trader who knows how to read the patterns. It's always good. There's no difference. Whether it's raining outside, whether it's sunny outside, whether there's some masculine chick in the gym or some feminine chick that's actually happy and fun to be around, doesn't matter, because you're just there to work out or just here to trade and make money. Doesn't matter. So that's all I've got for you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope to see some of you at the Heaven on Earth retreat. I would love to interact and maybe go surf and do some yoga and eat some awesome yummy food and interact. We'll get to interact with some actual, like, real women that are conscious and happy to be alive and they're not privileged. So hope you all enjoyed this video. Have a beautiful rest of your day.